The War Council chamber of the Velorax Empire was a massive hall carved from black stone. Thousands of officers stood in perfect rows, their gray skin gleaming under red lights. At the center of the room, High Commander Zirith looked at the holographic image of a small blue planet spinning slowly in the air. "This is Earth," he said, his voice cold and sharp. "Home to a species called humans. They control only one star system. They have no colonies, no allies, and our scouts report they have fewer than 400 warships." A low rumble of laughter spread through the chamber. The Velorax controlled over 2,000 star systems. They had crushed dozens of species. A single planet with a tiny fleet was not a threat. It was a meal. "The planet is rich in water, metals, and organic life," Zirith continued. "It will make an excellent addition to our empire. I am assembling a fleet of 9,500 warships. We will arrive, demand surrender, and take what is ours." Sub-Commander Draven stepped forward. He was younger than Zirith, hungry for glory and eager to prove himself. "High Commander, is such a large fleet necessary for one primitive world?" Zirith turned to face him. "I do not believe in fair fights, Sub-Commander. I believe in victory. We will crush them so completely that no species in this galaxy will ever think of resisting us again." The officers cheered. The decision was made. The largest invasion fleet in Velorax history would soon be on its way to Earth. Far across the galaxy. The people of Earth had no idea what was coming. They went about their daily lives, working and laughing and loving. Children played in parks. Families gathered for dinner. The streets of cities around the world were filled with ordinary people doing ordinary things, but deep beneath the surface of the planet, in a bunker that did not officially exist, Admiral Kevin Price sat alone in a dark room. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 30 years preparing for a moment he hoped would never come. The door opened and a woman walked in. Captain Laura Ben was his best tactical officer, sharp-minded and calm under pressure. Behind her came Dr. Nathan Cole, a thin man with glasses who led Earth's most secret research program. "The sensors picked them up 6 hours ago," Laura said. 9,500 ships. They'll reach our solar system in 11 days. Kevin nodded slowly. He had always known this day would come. Earth had been hiding for a long time, pretending to be weak, pretending to be primitive. But the truth was very different. "Show me what we're facing," he said. Nathan activated a holographic display. The Velorax fleet appeared, a massive swarm of red dots moving through space. "They're using standard formation patterns," he explained. "Their ships are large and heavily armed, but their tactics are predictable. They've never fought an enemy who could truly challenge them. And they think we can't challenge them either," Lavra added. Kevin stood up and walked to the display. He touched the image of Earth, and suddenly the picture changed. Hidden satellites appeared in orbit. Defense platforms emerged around every planet in the solar system. The asteroid belt lit up with thousands of weapon stations. Earth's true fleet, not 300 ships but 3,000, materialized from secret locations throughout the system. "They're coming for a primitive world," Kevin said quietly. "They have no idea what's waiting for them. For 50 years, Earth had been preparing. After making first contact with alien life and learning about the dangers of the galaxy, humanity had made a choice. They would not announce themselves. They would not try to join galactic society. Instead, they would hide their true strength and build defenses that could stop any invasion. Every major government had agreed. Every scientist, engineer, and soldier had worked toward this single goal. The solar system had been transformed into a fortress, and the galaxy had no idea. "What about the civilian population?" Lavra asked. "Do we tell them?" Kevin shook his head. "Not yet. We don't want panic. We have 11 days to finish our preparations. When the fighting starts, people will understand. Nathan adjusted his glasses nervously. Admiral, my team has run the simulations. If our defenses work as designed, we can win this battle. But there will be losses. Some of their ships will get through. Some of our people will die. I know, Kevin said. War always has a cost. But if we don't fight, if we surrender, we lose everything. Our freedom. Our future? Our children will grow up as slaves. He turned to face them both. That's not going to happen. Not while I'm breathing. On the Velorax flagship, High Commander Xyrith reviewed the latest scout reports. The humans had detected his fleet, but they had not tried to run. They had not called for help. They were just sitting there, waiting. Foolish creatures, Draven said, standing beside him. They must know they cannot win. Perhaps they hope to negotiate. Xyrith made a sound of contempt. There will be no negotiation. We will give them one chance to surrender. When they refuse, we will burn their cities and take their world. What if they do surrender? Then we will still burn their cities, Xyrith replied. They need to learn their place in the galaxy. An old Velorax officer stood in the shadows, watching silently. Elder Vithras had served the Empire for over 200 years. He had seen many conquests, many victories. But something about this mission troubled him. The humans were too calm, too quiet. He had tried to access old records about Earth, but the files were locked, classified at the highest level. That was strange. Why would information about a primitive planet be so heavily protected? Vithras decided to keep his concerns to himself for now. Xyrith was not a commander who welcomed doubt, but the old officer made a private promise. He would watch the humans carefully. He would look for any sign that they were more than they appeared. The 11 days passed quickly. The Velorax fleet entered the solar system, their ships blocking out the stars like a dark cloud. High Commander Xyrith stood on his bridge, looking at the distant blue dot that was Earth. "Open a channel," he commanded. "Let the humans hear their fate." His voice boomed across space, reaching every radio and screen on Earth. "People of Earth, I am High Commander Xyrith of the Velorax Empire. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately, and some of you will be allowed to live. Resist, and you will all be destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide." In the bunker beneath Earth's surface, Admiral Kevin Price listened to the message. His officers waited for his response. The fate of humanity rested on his shoulders. He opened a channel of his own. His voice was calm and steady when he spoke. "High Commander Xyrith, this is Admiral Kevin Price of the United Earth Defense Force. We have received your message. And we have a message of our own." He paused, and a small smile crossed his face. "You should have sent more ships." Then he closed the channel and turned to his officers. "Begin the operation," he said. "Show them what humans can do." The Velorax fleet moved through the darkness of space like a swarm of angry insects. 9,500 warships, each one bristling with weapons, each one filled with soldiers ready to conquer. High Commander Xyrith stood on his bridge and watched Earth grow larger in the distance. "The humans have not responded to our demands," Sub-Commander Draven reported. "They sent only that one strange message." "You should have sent more ships," Xyrith repeated, mocking the words. "Arrogant creatures. They have no idea what's coming for them." The fleet passed Neptune's orbit, the outermost region of the human solar system. Everything was quiet. The scanners showed nothing but empty space and a few chunks of ice and rock. Xyrith allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. This conquest would be easy. Then the first explosion lit up the darkness. A Velorax cruiser vanished in a ball of fire. Then another. Then 10 more. Alarms screamed across the fleet as ships began dying without warning. What's happening? Xyrath roared. Unknown weapons. An officer shouted. They're coming from everywhere. Hidden among the moons of Neptune, defense platforms that had been sleeping for decades suddenly came alive. They fired kinetic rounds, simple pieces of metal accelerated to incredible speeds. At such velocities, even a small object could punch through the strongest armor. The Veloraks had never seen weapons like this. Their shields were designed to stop energy beams and plasma bolts, not solid projectiles moving faster than anything they had encountered. Commander Ryan Torres sat in a hidden station buried deep inside Triton, Neptune's largest moon. He watched his screens with cold satisfaction as Velorak ships exploded one after another. Keep firing, he ordered his crew. Don't give them time to think. Lieutenant Megan Shaw worked beside him, monitoring enemy communications. Sir, they're confused. They don't understand what's hitting them. Their commanders are screaming at each other. Good, Ryan said. Let them scream. In the first 10 minutes, 400 Velorak ships were destroyed. The fleet had barely entered the solar system, and they had already lost more vessels than in any battle in their history. On the flagship, Xyrath struggled to regain control. All ships advance. Push through their defenses. They cannot have enough weapons to stop us all. The fleet surged forward, and the Veloraks began to fight back. Their guns found some of the hidden platforms and destroyed them. But for every platform they killed, 3 more opened fire from different positions. Then the second wave of Earth's defense began. From the asteroid fields around Neptune, small attack craft emerged. They were tiny compared to the massive Velorak's warships, but they were fast and hard to hit. Each one carried a single pilot and a payload of missiles designed to find weak points in enemy armor. Captain Scott Palmer led the first squadron. He was young, barely 30 years old, but he had trained his whole life for this moment. His small ship danced between enemy fire, getting closer and closer to a Velorak's battleship. Fox 1, he said calmly, and released his missile stud. The weapon streaked toward the battleship and struck its engine section. The massive ship shuddered, then broke apart as its power core exploded. All across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human pilots attacked with precision and skill, hitting targets and escaping before the Veloraks could respond. The enemy had numbers, but the humans had speed and surprise. Sub-Commander Draven watched the destruction with growing horror. Aye, Commander, we've lost 800 ships. We need to regroup. No, Xyrath snarled. We push forward. These are just their outer defenses. Once we reach Earth, we will crush them. But doubt had begun to spread through the fleet. The Veloraks had conquered many worlds, but they had never faced resistance like this. The humans fought with a ferocity that seemed impossible for such a young species. Elder Vithras stood quietly in the corner of the bridge, watching everything. His suspicions had been correct. The humans were not primitive at all. They had been hiding their true strength. But why? What kind of species pretended to be weak while building weapons that could challenge an empire? The fleet continued forward, pushing past Neptune toward Uranus. More hidden platforms awakened. More attack craft emerged from hiding. The Veloraks kept dying. Lieutenant Shaw intercepted a transmission from one of the enemy ships. She played it for Commander Torres. This is Captain Varth of the cruiser Shadowblade. We are taking heavy damage. Request permission to withdraw. There was a pause. Then another voice responded. Permission denied. Any ship that retreats will be destroyed by our own fleet. Push forward or die. Ryan shook his head. They're more afraid of their own commanders than they are of us. That's going to be their downfall. The battle raged for 6 hours. By the time the Velorak's fleet reached Uranus, They had lost 1,200 ships. More than 10% of their force was gone, and they still had most of the solar system left to cross. On Earth, Admiral Price monitored the battle from his command center. Captain Bennett stood beside him, updating the tactical display. Outer defenses performed better than expected, she reported. Enemy losses are significant, but they're still coming. They won't turn back, Kevin said. Their commander is too proud. He'll keep pushing forward until there's nothing left of his fleet. And if he doesn't, if he retreats and comes back with more ships? Kevin looked at her with steady eyes. Then we'll destroy those ships too. We've been preparing for this for 50 years, Lavra. We have enough weapons to fight 10 fleets this size. Lavra nodded, but a question remained in her mind. Sir, what happens after we win? The galaxy will know about us. Other empires will see us as a threat. That's a problem for tomorrow, Kevin replied. Today, we survive. Today, we show the universe that Earth is not a world to be conquered. He turned back to the display. Activate the next defense line. Let's welcome our guests to the asteroid belt. Far away, in the battered remains of his fleet, High Commander Zereth refused to accept what was happening. He had expected an easy victory. Instead, he was watching his ships die by the hundreds. Sir, an officer said nervously, our casualties are unprecedented. The fleet is losing confidence. Then restore their confidence, Zereth growled. Execute 3 captains for cowardice. Broadcast it to the entire fleet. Make sure everyone understands that retreat is not an option. Draven hesitated. High Commander, perhaps we should reconsider. The humans are clearly more advanced than our scouts reported. If we retreat now, we can return with a larger force. Zereth turned on him with fury in his eyes. Retreat? To the Velarax Empire, retreat is death. We will conquer this planet or we will all die trying. He pointed at the distant sun. Earth is just ahead. We will reach it, and we will burn it to ashes. This I swear. The fleet continued forward, leaving a trail of destroyed ships behind them. Ahead lay the asteroid belt, a vast field of rocks and debris between Mars and Jupiter. The Velarax did not know it yet. But the asteroid belt was where the real killing would begin. Commander, Torres watched them approach on his long-range sensors. He opened a channel to Admiral Price. They're entering the belt, sir. Should we begin? Kevin Price looked at the tactical display one more time. Thousands of weapon platforms waited in the darkness, hidden inside hollowed-out asteroids. Mines floated silently between the rocks. Ambush teams stood ready in small ships designed to look like debris. Begin, he said. The trap was set. Now it was time to spring it. The asteroid belt stretched across the solar system like a river of stone. Millions of rocks, some as small as houses, others as large as mountains, floated in the eternal darkness between Mars and Jupiter. To most species, it was just debris, leftover pieces from the formation of the solar system. To humanity, it was a weapon. The Velarax fleet entered the belt in tight formation. They had lost over 1,200 ships, but more than 8,000 remained. High Commander Zereth believed the worst was behind them. The outer planets had been a surprise, but surely the humans could not have defenses everywhere. He was wrong. The first asteroid exploded without warning, but instead of rock and dust, it released a swarm of missiles that streaked toward the nearest Velarax ships. Before anyone could react, 3 cruisers were torn apart. Then another asteroid exploded. And another. And another. It's a trap, Draven shouted. The asteroids are weapons. Zereth watched in horror as his fleet began to die. The humans had spent decades turning the asteroid belt into a massive killing zone. Weapon platforms had been built inside hollowed-out rocks. Mines had been scattered by the millions. Every path through the belt was a death sentence. All ships, evasive action. Xyrath ordered. Find a clear path. But there was no clear path. The humans had planned too well. Everywhere the Velarax turned, they found more weapons, more traps, more death. Sergeant Marcus Hall led a team of Marines on a mission that would have seemed impossible to any other species. While the battle raged around them, his small ship approached a damaged Velarax cruiser. The enemy vessel was crippled, but not destroyed. Its crew still alive inside. "Boarding team ready," Marcus reported through his helmet radio. "Proceed," came the response from command. "We need their technology and their intelligence." The Marines cut through the hull and entered the ship. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. Velarax soldiers rushed to stop them, but they had never faced humans in close combat before. Marcus was not a large man, but he moved with deadly efficiency. His training had prepared him for this moment. He ducked under an enemy's weapon and struck with his combat knife, then rolled away and fired his rifle at two more attackers. His team worked together like a single organism. They covered each other, communicated without words, and advanced through the ship with unstoppable determination. The Velarax fought bravely, but they were outmatched. Within 20 minutes, the Marines had captured the bridge and taken the surviving crew prisoner. "Ship secured," Marcus reported. "We have prisoners and access to their computer systems." Back in the command center, Dr. Patricia Dunn received the captured data with eager hands. She was the creator of Earth's electronic warfare systems, and she had been waiting for this moment. "Their encryption is simple," she said, fingers flying across her keyboard. "I can crack it in minutes." Admiral Price watched over her shoulder. "What are you looking for?" "Everything. Their communication codes, their fleet formations, their command protocols." She smiled grimly. "And most importantly, the frequencies their ships use to identify friend from enemy." Within an hour, Patricia had what she needed. She uploaded a virus into the captured ship systems and broadcast it across the Velarax fleet. The virus was subtle, almost invisible. It didn't destroy anything. It just changed one small piece of code in the targeting computers of every ship it infected. The results were catastrophic. Velarax ships began firing on each other. A battleship destroyed 3 of its own cruisers before anyone realized what was happening. A squadron of fighters attacked their carrier, thinking it was an enemy vessel. Chaos spread through the fleet like wildfire. "What's happening?" Xyrath screamed. "Why are our ships attacking each other?" No one could answer him. The virus worked perfectly, hiding itself after each attack, making it impossible to trace. The Velarax tried to shut down their targeting computers, but without them, they couldn't hit anything at all. Fleet Master Korath was a veteran of 100 battles. He had served the Empire his entire life and had never known defeat. But as he watched the disaster unfolding around him, he felt something he had never experienced before: fear. He approached Xyrath carefully. "High Commander, we must consider withdrawal. We have lost over 3,000 ships. Our fleet is in chaos. The humans are not what we expected." Xyrath turned on him with murder in his eyes. "Withdrawal? You dare suggest retreat?" "I suggest survival," Korath replied. "If we continue, we will all die. Is the conquest of one planet worth the destruction of our entire fleet?" For a moment, Xyrath seemed to waver. Then his face hardened. "The Velarax do not retreat. We will push forward, and we will conquer Earth, even if only one ship remains." He drew his sidearm and pointed it at Korath. "Any officer who disagrees will be executed for treason." Korath bowed his head and stepped back. There was nothing more he could say. Xyrath had chosen death over dishonor, and he would drag the entire fleet down with him. The battle in the asteroid belt continued for 2 days. Human pilots flew endless sorties, striking the Veloraks and vanishing back into the rocks before they could respond. Mines continued to detonate. Hidden platforms kept firing. The virus kept spreading. By the time the surviving Velorak ships emerged from the belt, their fleet had been cut in half. From 9,500 vessels, only 4,800 remained. They had crossed less than half of the solar system, and they had already lost more ships than most empires had in their entire navies. On Earth, the mood was cautiously optimistic. Admiral Price addressed his officers with quiet pride. "We've hurt them badly," he said. "But the fight isn't over. They still have thousands of ships, and they're heading straight for us. The next battle will be the last." Captain Bennett studied the tactical display. "They're broken, sir. Look at their formation. It's ragged, undisciplined. Half their ships have battle damage. Their morale must be in ruins. Desperate enemies are dangerous enemies," Kevin warned. "They know they can't go back. Their commander will drive them forward until the very end." He looked at each of his officers in turn. "Make sure our orbital defenses are at full readiness. When they arrive at Earth, we need to finish this." Far away, on the battered flagship, High Commander Zareth sat alone in his quarters. His uniform was stained with the blood of officers he had executed for cowardice. His hands trembled with rage and exhaustion. He had been so confident, so certain of victory. The humans were supposed to be primitive, easy prey for the mighty Velorax Empire. Instead, they had turned the solar system into a nightmare of death and destruction, but he could not turn back. Retreat was impossible. If he returned home in defeat, he would be executed. His family would be shamed. His name would be erased from history. The only way forward was victory. He had to reach Earth. He had to conquer it. Nothing else mattered. Elder Vethris entered the quarters without invitation. The old advisor looked at Zareth with something that might have been pity. "I have accessed the Forbidden's archives," Vethris said quietly. "I know why information about Earth was classified." Zareth looked up. "Tell me. 3 empires have tried to conquer Earth before us. The Khazari, the Vorn, and the Malthax. Each one sent a massive fleet." Vethris paused. None of them survived. Not a single ship returned. The empires themselves collapsed within decades of their failed invasions. Zareth stared at him in disbelief. "That's impossible. Humans are a young species. They couldn't have defeated—" "They did," Vethris interrupted. "And now they are defeating us. High Commander, Earth is not a world to be conquered. It is a world to be avoided. The humans have been preparing for invasions like ours for generations. They are not prey. They are predators pretending to be prey." Zareth was silent for a long moment. Then he stood and straightened his uniform. "It doesn't matter," he said. "We cannot go back. We can only go forward." He walked toward the door. "Prepare the fleet for the final assault. We will reach Earth, and we will fight until our last breath." Vethris watched him go, knowing that he was watching a dead man walk to his grave. And somewhere ahead, Earth waited in the darkness, ready to welcome them with fire and steel. Earth appeared on the Velorak sensors like a small blue jewel against the blackness of space. It was beautiful, peaceful, and completely silent. No defensive fleets rushed out to meet them. No warning messages flooded their communications. Just a quiet planet orbiting a yellow sun, waiting. High Commander Zareth stood on his bridge and looked at the world that had cost him so much. 4,800 ships remained from his original fleet. Nearly 5,000 vessels had been destroyed crossing the solar system. More Veloraks had died in the past week than in the last century of conquest. But he was here now. He had reached Earth, and he intended to burn it. "All ships, battle formation," he commanded. "Prepare for planetary bombardment. We will reduce their cities to ash." The fleet spread out, forming a massive arc around Earth's orbital space. Weapon systems powered up. Targeting computers locked onto population centers below. The moment of conquest had finally arrived. Then the moon began to glow. Massive doors opened on the lunar surface, revealing enormous railgun installations built directly into the rock. The guns were the size of mountains, powered by reactors buried deep underground. They had been waiting in silence for 50 years, and now they spoke with voices of thunder. The first shot crossed the distance between the moon and the Velorax fleet in less than a second. It struck a battleship amidships, and the vessel simply ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no debris. The kinetic energy was so immense that the ship was vaporized instantly. Then the second shot came, and the third, and the 100th. The moon! Dratton screamed. They've weaponized the moon! Xyrith watched his ships dying and felt his sanity begin to crack. This was impossible. No species could build weapons this powerful. No species could hide this much firepower. But the humans had. They had turned their own moon into a fortress. And now that fortress was tearing his fleet apart. Vice Admiral Diana Cross commanded Earth's orbital defense grid from a station hidden behind the moon's far side. She was a calm woman with silver hair and steady hands, and she had been waiting for this day her entire career. Lunar batteries performing at 112% efficiency, an officer reported. Enemy losses mounting rapidly. Diana nodded. Activate the orbital platforms. Let's show them what else we've been hiding. All around Earth, 2,000 battle stations emerged from hidden positions. They had been disguised as satellites, space debris, even abandoned spacecraft. Now they revealed their true nature, bristling with weapons that had never been seen by any species outside the solar system. The Velorax fleet found itself surrounded. The lunar railguns hammered them from behind. The orbital platforms attacked from every direction. And now, rising from Earth's surface, came humanity's true war fleet. 3,000 warships, each one built in secret over decades, launched from underground hangars and orbital docks. They were faster than the Velorax ships, more maneuverable, and equipped with weapons that turned enemy armor into paper. Captain Scott Palmer led the fighter squadrons in the battle. His small craft danced between the massive Velorax vessels, delivering precision strikes that crippled engines and destroyed weapon systems. Target that carrier, he ordered his wingmen. Take out its fighter base. They dove toward the enemy vessel, dodging defensive fire with impossible skill. Human pilots had trained for years in simulators designed to replicate this exact scenario. Every maneuver had been practiced 1,000 times. Every attack pattern had been perfected. The carrier tried to launch its own fighters, but Palmer's squadron destroyed the bay doors before they could open. Then they put 3 missiles into the ship's bridge and peeled away as it began to break apart. On the Velorax flagship, chaos reigned. Officers screamed reports that made no sense. Ships disappeared from the tactical display faster than anyone could count. The battle had become a slaughter. Elder Vithras approached Xyrith one final time. High Commander, we must surrender. There is no shame in facing a superior enemy. We can save what remains of our fleet. Xyrith turned to face him, and Vithras saw that the High Commander's eyes had gone blank. His mind had broken under the weight of failure. Surrender. Xyrith whispered. No, we will fight. We will fight until there is nothing left. He laughed, a sound without humor. They want a war? We will give them a war they will never forget. He grabbed the communications console. All ships ram the planet. If we cannot conquer Earth, we will destroy it. Crash your vessels into their cities. Kill as many as you can. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the Velorax captains refused the order. They had followed Xyrith across the galaxy. They had watched their friends die, but they would not commit suicide for a commander who had lost his mind. "The fleet is not responding," Draven reported quietly. "They will not obey." Xyrath screamed in rage and drew his weapon, firing wildly at his own officers. Draven tackled him before he could kill anyone, and the bridge dissolved into a struggle as the command staff tried to restrain their mad leader Dodd in the midst of the chaos. Vithras seized control. "This is Elder Vithras, assuming emergency command. All surviving ships, cease fire immediately. Lower shields and await further instructions." He paused, then added, "We surrender." The battle ended not with a final explosion, but with silence. The surviving Velorax ships stopped fighting and drifted in the darkness, their weapons cold, their crews exhausted. Admiral Price received the surrender message and closed his eyes for a moment. They had won. Earth was safe. His people would live. "Accept their surrender," he ordered. "Send medical ships to assist their wounded. Take their commanders into custody, but treat them with respect. We are not monsters." Captain Bennett looked at him in surprise. "Sir, after everything they tried to do?" "Especially after everything they tried to do," Kevin replied. "We've just proven that humanity can destroy any fleet that comes for us. Now we need to prove that we can be merciful. That's how you build lasting peace." He watched as human ships approached the crippled Velorax fleet, offering assistance instead of death. He knew that this moment would be remembered for centuries. The galaxy would see that humans could be terrifying in battle and compassionate in victory. It was the perfect message to send. On the flagship, Xyrath was dragged from the bridge in restraints, still screaming about destruction and revenge. He was taken to a medical bay where doctors from both species worked together to sedate him. Elder Vithras remained on the bridge, watching Earth through the view screen. It was such a small world, so blue, so peaceful, and yet it had destroyed the greatest fleet the Velorax had ever assembled. A human officer boarded the ship and approached him. She was young, with calm eyes and a steady voice. "I'm Lieutenant Commander Karen Walsh," she said. "I'm here to escort you to Admiral Price. He has questions for you." Vithras bowed his head. "I will answer whatever questions he has. But I would ask one of my own, if I may. Go ahead." The old Velorax looked at her with genuine curiosity. "Why? Why did your species build all of this? You could have used these resources to expand across the stars, to conquer worlds of your own. Instead, you turned your entire system into a fortress. Why?" Karen thought about the question for a long moment before answering. "Because we knew someone like you would come eventually. Someone who wanted to take what was ours. So we prepared." She gestured toward the view screen, where Earth turned slowly in the sunlight. "That world is our home. Our families live there. Our children. We built all of this because we would rather die than let anyone take it from us." Vithras nodded slowly. He understood now. The humans were not warriors or conquerors. They were protectors defending their home with everything they had. And he realized, with a chill that went to his bones, that the galaxy had made a terrible mistake by threatening them, because protectors, when pushed far enough, could become something far more dangerous than conquerors. They could become avengers. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Velorax Empire, the most powerful military force in known space, had been humiliated. They had sent 9,500 warships to conquer a primitive planet called Earth. Only 17 ships returned home. Captain Melders commanded one of those 17. Her vessel had barely escaped, its hull torn open in a dozen places, half its crew dead. She had seen things that would haunt her nightmares forever. Human weapons that could vaporize a battleship in seconds. Human pilots who flew like demons. human soldiers who boarded ships and killed with terrifying efficiency. When she reached Velorak space, she was immediately summoned to the Imperial Council. They wanted to know everything. They wanted to understand how such a disaster could happen. Meldris stood before the council and played the recordings. She showed them the battle at Neptune, where hidden weapons had torn through the fleet. She showed them the asteroid belt, where thousands of ships had died in the carefully prepared killing zone. She showed them the final assault on Earth, where the moon itself had become a weapon. The council watched in horrified silence. When the recordings ended, no one spoke for a long moment. "This is impossible," one counselor finally said. "Humans are a young species. They cannot have developed such technology in such a short time." "They did not develop it quickly," Meldris replied. "They developed it secretly. They have been preparing for this invasion for 50 years. Perhaps longer. They knew we would come, and they were ready." Another counselor slammed his fist on the table. "Then we send a larger fleet. We gather every ship in the Empire and crush them." Meldris shook her head. "Respectfully, that would be suicide. The defenses we faced were only a fraction of their true capability." Admiral Price showed High Commander Zyrith their full strength before taking him prisoner. "Earth has enough weapons to defeat 10 fleets our size." She paused, letting the words sink in. They were never in danger. They were testing their defenses against a real enemy. We were nothing but practice. The council erupted in angry shouts, but Meldris knew the truth. The Velorak's empire would never attack Earth again. They could not afford to dot far away on Earth. The aftermath of the battle was being handled with careful precision. The Velorak's prisoners were treated humanely, given medical care and comfortable quarters. High Commander Zyrith was kept in isolation, his broken mind receiving treatment from the best doctors humanity had to offer. Elder Vithris spent long hours talking with Admiral Price. The two old warriors had more in common than either expected. They both understood the weight of command, the burden of sending others to die. "What will happen to us?" Vithris asked one evening as they shared a meal in Price's quarters. "You'll be sent home eventually," Kevin replied. "We have no interest in keeping prisoners forever. You'll carry a message to your people. Earth is not your enemy, but we will defend ourselves against any threat. And if another empire comes for you?" Kevin smiled grimly. "Then we'll destroy them too. And the empire after that. And the one after that. Until the galaxy learns to leave us alone." Vithris studied the human across the table. "You could conquer worlds of your own, you know. With your technology, your weapons, you could build an empire larger than the Veloraks ever dreamed." "We could," Kevin agreed. "But we won't. Conquest brings resentment. Resentment brings rebellion. We've studied enough history to know that empires always fall eventually." He gestured toward the window, where Earth's blue curve was visible against the stars. "We don't want an empire. We just want our home, our children, our future. Is that so hard to understand?" Vithris thought about his own people, always hungry for more territory, more resources, more power. He thought about the endless wars they had fought, the species they had enslaved, the worlds they had burned. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "your species is wiser than mine." 2 months after the battle, Ambassador Gregory Lane traveled to the Galactic Council. It was humanity's first official contact with the broader galactic community, and every species was watching. The council chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from 100 different worlds. They had seen the recordings of Earth's victory. They knew what humanity was capable of, and they were afraid. Gregory stood at the center of the chamber and looked around at the assembled aliens. He was a tall man with kind eyes and a gentle voice, chosen specifically because he looked non-threatening. "Distinguished members of the Galactic Council," he began. I come to you not as a conqueror, but as a neighbor. Earth seeks no territory beyond our own solar system. We have no interest in your worlds, your resources, or your people." He paused, letting his words settle. "But I must be clear about one thing. We will defend ourselves against any threat." The Velarax learned this lesson the hard way. We hope no other species will make the same mistake. A representative from the Thesan Confederacy raised his hand. "Ambassador Lane, if Earth has such powerful weapons, how can we trust that you will not use them for conquest?" Gregory smiled. "Because conquest requires desire. We have no desire for your worlds. Earth is our home, and it is enough for us." He spread his hands. "We are offering friendship, trade, cultural exchange, the sharing of knowledge and ideas. Isn't that more valuable than war?" The council debated for 3 days. In the end, they voted to recognize Earth as a sovereign power and to establish diplomatic relations. Several species that had been considering their own attacks on humanity quietly canceled their plans. On Earth, President Linda Morrison addressed the global population. She spoke from the steps of the rebuilt United Nations building. Her voice carried to every corner of the planet. "My fellow humans," she said, "we have survived our first test. The galaxy knows we exist now. They know we will defend ourselves. But more importantly, they know we can be trusted. We fought with courage and won with mercy. That is who we are." She paused, looking up at the sky where stars were beginning to appear. "The universe is vast and full of wonders. There are friends waiting to be made, knowledge waiting to be discovered. Our children will walk on worlds we cannot even imagine today. But they will always remember where they came from. They will always remember Earth." The crowd cheered, their voices rising toward the heavens. 6 months later, Ambassador Lane sat in his office on the diplomatic station orbiting Jupiter. A young aide entered with a puzzled expression. "Sir, a representative from the Thesan Confederacy is asking why humans built such massive defenses. He says he cannot understand why a species would invest so much in protection rather than expansion." Gregory leaned back in his chair and thought about the question. He thought about all the years of secret preparation, all the resources devoted to defense, all the sacrifices made to keep Earth safe. "Tell him the truth," he finally said. "Tell him we built all of this because we knew someone like the Velarax would eventually come. We knew the galaxy would see our world and want to take it. So we prepared. We waited. We trained." He smiled, a hint of steel beneath the gentle expression. "Tell him we've been waiting for a long time. And tell him we're patient enough to wait forever." The aide nodded and left to deliver the message. Gregory turned to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other empires were watching Earth. Some were curious. Some were frightened. Some were already planning their own attacks. Let them come, he thought. We'll be ready. A message appeared on his screen. Deep space sensors had detected a large fleet from the Torvan Dominion moving toward human space. Initial estimates suggested over 6,000 ships. Gregory read the message and felt no fear. Earth had destroyed one fleet. They could destroy another, and another, and another, until the galaxy finally learned to leave them alone. He pressed a button on his desk. "Get me Admiral Price," he said. "Tell him we have visitors." In her quarters deep beneath Earth's surface, an old woman named Dr. Patricia Dunn sat at her desk. She was retired now, her work on the electronic warfare systems complete. But she still monitored the news, still watched the stars. Her granddaughter sat beside her, a young girl of 7 with bright eyes full of curiosity. "Grandma," the girl asked, "why do people want to hurt us?" Patricia smiled and stroked the child's hair. "Because they're afraid, sweetheart. They see something they don't understand, and instead of trying to learn about it, they want to destroy it. That's stupid." "Yes, it is. But people are often stupid, even smart people. She hugged her granddaughter close. That's why we have to be ready. That's why we have to be strong. So that no matter how stupid people are, they can never take away what we love. Outside, the sun was setting over a peaceful world. Children played in parks. Families gathered for dinner. The streets were filled with ordinary people doing ordinary things. And in the darkness between the stars, humanity's weapons waited in silence, ready to defend them all.